ABC television. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back, everybody, to Dead Air. My name is Siena Anzaldua, your Dead Air host, and I go over all things scary, spooky, and happening in the Central Valley. Now, today we are in the final segment of our Eli Roth deep dive here, and if you thought last week was brutal, this week's movies are incredibly brutal, and I'm sorry, but also really not sorry.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Today, we are going over Hostel and Hostel Part 2. And let me just say, I've been saying this for the past few weeks. These are probably some of my favorite movies.
What is wrong with you?
I love them. I love so many different things about them. And I hope that you guys watch the movies beforehand. If not, go watch them right now and then come back. I'll be here. Just like
shut
this.
Up!
Waiting.
I'm so fucking scared right now. You shut up!
Waiting. As always, let me just say, huge gore warning here. Absolutely freaking huge gore warning here before you go watch, we deep dive into this. Big warning, you're gonna see a lot of stuff that you wish you hadn't.
That's what she said.
But as all things with horror, there's always a very deep meaning to it. So without further ado, let's get into our movie summary. Hostel follows three backpackers, Paxton, Josh, and their friend Ollie, traveling through Europe, who are lured to a Slovakian hostel by promises of beautiful women and nonstop partying. What begins as a carefree adventure quickly turns into a nightmare when Ollie disappears and the friends uncover a sinister organization known as the Elite Hunting Club, where wealthy clients pay to torture and murder unsuspecting tourists. After Josh is brutally killed, Paxton is captured and nearly becomes the next victim. But he manages to escape, uncovering the horrifying extent of the operation. Fighting his way to freedom, Paxton rescues another captive, takes revenge on those responsible, and ultimately tracks down one of the men involved, delivering his own form of justice before escaping Europe. Now, Hostel Part 2 follows three American art students, Beth, Whitney, and Lorna, who travel to Slovakia after being enticed by a fellow traveler promising a luxurious getaway. Unbeknownst to them, they have been targeted by the Elite Hunting Club, a secret organization that auctions tourists to wealthy clients seeking to torture and kill for sport. As the women are systematically abducted, tortured, and murdered, Beth discovers the horrifying truth behind the operation and becomes trapped within its deadly network. Using her intelligence and resourcefulness, she turns the tables on her captors, outmaneuvering both the club's members and the man assigned to kill her. In a dark twist, Beth secures her survival by buying her way into the organization and exacts her revenge on those who betrayed her. So now we are on to Siena's thoughts. We've got Siena's thoughts, whether we like them or not. We've got Siena's thoughts. Yes. My thoughts on this movie. I love this movie for many different reasons. First, I love, of course, come on guys, this is not new. I love the gore in this movie.
I'm Michael Jordan. Stop it. Get some help.
The gore in this movie is so good and it's so well done and I love it. I think it is so
I promise, like, and even
it's all practical effects, and you can tell when you watch it. I have seen these movies millions of times. Okay, millions of times. So I still cringe at a lot of the scenes. I think one of the biggest scenes from Hostel Part 1 that I cringe at is when the Japanese woman that Paxton saves, she got tortured and he's trying to save her. And her eyeball is hanging out and he's trying to help her and he just cuts it off. that one gets me so badly. From part 2, I would have to say, honestly, Lorna's death really gets to me because I don't know, it's just creepy, and it's something that I think a lot of people are kind of afraid of when traveling and stuff with both of these movies. I think that's a really big theme here, is that and we'll go over this a little bit more in a sec here, but this traveling and then becoming abducted and auctioned off and tortured because somebody else paid for it is horrific. So I think that Lorna's death really gets to me so badly, and it is just both of these movies really creep me out in a very different type of way. So yes, the gore in this movie is just exquisite. You got the practical effects, the fact that honestly, if you haven't seen this movie before and you're gonna watch it, or you already watched it, I'm sorry, because guess what? You probably just cringed your head off, dude. So I know I did, and I know I still do. Another thing that I really love about these movies is that the very deep meanings behind each of these movies. So in the first movie, you really get that commodification of human life. So this is both, a lot of these themes travel across both films. So the commodification of human life is one of the film's central themes because it gives the idea that human beings can absolutely be treated as products. And the elite hunting club really turns these people into commodities, and they sell the access to the torture, murder, and they sell these people to the highest bidder. And these films really critique a world where wealth can buy anything, and even the lives of other people. And to me, the fact that this traverses both movies is really cool. But not only does it traverse both movies, it traverses both movies in such a different way. So in the first movie, you purely get the point of view of the victim. So how does it feel to really be bought and used like a commodity? In the second movie, Beth acts as both sides. So how does it feel like when you're the victim who also has to turn into the villain in this movie? Or really, I don't think of her as a villain, but some people might. And it's really she turns the tables on her captors. And to me, personally, I like part 2 best because I think it gives something really different to the genre when it comes to this type of horror, this type of genre of horror. And it's just the fact that she takes her power back, and she's able to, and I love it. It's so badass, and I think it's so good and so powerful. So I think that's a really cool plot point in this movie. In these movies, Beth to me is just exquisite. So I think another really, really cool aspect of these movies is they're directly linked, obviously. So when you watch part 1, it ends with Paxton killing his original captor who tried to torture him. And then the second movie starts off with Paxton getting killed by the elite hunting club. And the way they do that is so brilliantly done. I think it is so seamless. It's almost like you could put both of these movies together and it would run as one movie. And I love that aspect of this. I think Quentin Tarantino and Eli Roth really did an amazing job with that piece. And that is something I want to bring up as well. On a lot of Quentin Tarantino movies, you also have Eli Roth who's as some sort of a support role. In a lot of Eli Roth's movies, Quentin Tarantino is acting as a lot of support role, which I like. I like a lot of Quentin Tarantino's movies, just like I like a lot of Eli Roth's movies. Now, Quentin Tarantino, just a little quick aside, Quentin Tarantino is not necessarily horror, but he tends to take a lot of traumatic experiences within human history and flips it to what
Are the dreams that you had you could do so
would happen if this occurred differently. So Inglourious Bastards, one of my absolute favorite movies of all time, shows what would it look like if Hitler was killed early on in World War II. And that's sort of his niche when it comes to movie making. So when you combine Quentin Tarantino and Eli Roth and make a horror movie, I think that is so incredibly powerful, and you can see that through a lot of these movies. Another really big theme here is the dark side of hedonism. So the protagonist spends much of these films chasing pleasure, partying, drinking, and, sex. And so their search for this indulgence ultimately, which I love about horror, takes them way too far. So it leads them into dangerous situations. And this is really where you get the suggestion that unchecked desire can cloud your judgment and create opportunities for you to be exploited. So again, you can see this through Paxton, Ollie, and Josh. They just met these women and they drop acid with them.
Right to jail.
Making them vulnerable to these women. And this is interesting because the guys don't take this into consideration because they're like, we're fine, we're men, it's cool. It's not cool. It's not. Don't ever do that, okay? No. So in the second movie, you see this through Lorna, who decides to go on a boat ride, even though Beth is like the incredibly smart one here and says, look, don't do it. I want you to stay here where there's a lot of people, where it's safe. And Lorna ignores that, and she goes off on a boat ride with this guy that she just met and ends up getting killed. So there's a lot of these different situations in these movies that really makes it abundantly clear and has very much influenced my life and shows just what happens when you're not careful.
Careful, SpongeBob! Careful, SpongeBob! SpongeBob, careful! Careful, SpongeBob!
Not just when you're not careful, but when you're not careful in a different country, which is really scary to me. I would never do these types of things, like go off alone, leave the big group, anything like that. You don't do that when you're in an unfamiliar territory. And this, to me, would be so unfamiliar. So another big theme in this movie is obviously the dehumanization of the victims. They're stripped of their identities, they're reduced to objects purely for the wealthy's entertainment. And the elite hunting club members view people not necessarily as individuals, but as experiences to be purchased and consumed. And this reflects how violence can become easier when empathy is completely removed. So again, this is obvious throughout both movies. And it's really an interesting perspective, but something that's a little obvious, a little obvious throughout both of these movies. We also get another big theme here is we get two very different takes on revenge. So in the first movie, Paxton, after he witnesses everything, he goes and he kills his captor. Whereas Beth, she follows the rules of the elite hunting club. She buys her way out. And as part of that buyout, she has to kill her captor. And so this is really interesting. So like I said, it's two very different perspectives on revenge. So I think that's really interesting. To me, I'd do exactly what Beth would do. Okay, I love it. I love the way that she had revenge in this movie. I think it is so good. I think the last and biggest aspect of this movie is the globalization and cultural anxiety during this period when many Americans were increasingly traveling abroad. So Hostel Part 1 was in 2002, I believe. No, wrong. 2005? Yes, 2005. And Hostel Part 2 was in 2007. So many Americans were traveling abroad, and Hostel really knew how to tap into the fears of these unfamiliar cultures, the language barriers, the foreign environments, all that kind of thing. And I think that they used the language barriers in these movies very well, and really tapped into some of the fears that Americans have during this era and during this time. So the film reflects the anxieties about being so isolated and powerless and far from home. And that to me is a sort of a very different type of fear. And of course, now we are on to Siena's Music Mayhem segment. Siena's Music Mayhem segment. Siena's Music Mayhem segment. Yes. So, the score for Hostel was composed by Nathan Barr, who became known in horror circles for blending the atmospheric sound design with traditional orchestral elements. So a lot of the key characteristics is that he wanted atmosphere over the melody. So much of the score relies on tension-building drones, ambient textures, and unsettling soundscapes rather than the memorable themes, which we're seeing a lot more of within Eli Roth's movies. So he also used European folk influences. So he incorporates instrumentation and tonalities that help reinforce the film's Eastern European setting, giving the music sort of a foreign and uneasy quality. So he also uses a lot of gradual escalation in these movies. The score begins relatively subdued during the backpacking and party scenes, but then it becomes increasingly dissonant and oppressive as the characters uncover the truth. So then within the score, you also get the industrial and metallic sounds. So you get the percussion, scraping, and distorted effects that mirror the cold factory-like environment of the elite hunting club. So he mirrors this with the psychological dread. So again, we're not relying on the jump scare stingers. The music is often creating a more lingering sense of anxiety and inevitability. The musical themes in this movie really emphasize the helplessness and the isolation, and often use the sparse arrangements and long sustained notes. And then, of course, we get during the torture scenes, Barr frequently allows ambient sounds and silence to dominate, making the violence feel more realistic, uncomfortable, and personal. You're like, it's so intimate, it's so right there in your face. And so especially with Paxton's survival arc, it's accompanied by a slightly more active musical cue reflecting his shift from victim to survivor, which I think is really cool. So of course, for Hostel Part 2, Nathan Barr also returned to this movie, and he expands upon many of the musical ideas that he introduced in Hostel. So a lot of the key characteristics, he used more of the orchestral approach. So it features a larger and more polished orchestral palette while still maintaining the eerie atmosphere of the original. He uses more gothic influences, so certain cues that he uses are darker, almost operatic quality, particularly during scenes involving the elite hunting club's wealthy clientele. So we get the enhanced tension building, where Barr uses layered strings, brass, choral textures to create a more epic sense of dread. He uses character-focused music, so Beth's storyline receives more emotional musical treatment rather than Paxton's did in the first film, which it really helped and really made a bigger impact with Beth. And so, and really made it so that we could connect with her more. So a lot of the musical themes in this movie explore power, corruption, and predation.
Onions, garlic,
celery, balsamic vinegar.
Tomato paste.
That's a big word for Elmo.
Reflecting the club's business-like treatment of murder, very transactional in a way. So the musical cues associated with the elite hunting club feel more organized, ceremonial, and it emphasizes the group's wealth and sophistication. But we also get Beth's transformation from prey to survivor, and it's mirrored by a stronger, more determined musical passage as the film progresses. So what's really interesting is Nathan Barr later became known for scores to horror projects such as Hemlock Grove and The Americans. So Barr often records unusual instruments and found objects to create unique sounds rather than relying solely on synthesizers. Now, both films use a mix of the original score and licensed music, like with club scenes featuring the energetic electronic tracks that sharply contrast the bleak orchestral score. So the first film score is more minimalist and raw, while the sequel score is larger and more thematic. And so Eli Roth really intentionally favored atmosphere and realism over constant musical accompaniment. And that meant that some of the film's most disturbing moments are underscored by very little music at all. And truly, this makes it more, again, like I said, intimate, immediate, and very, very unsettling to me. So a really good takeaway on the score here is that the Hostel and Hostel Part 1 aren't really designed to be memorable in terms of their score like Suspiria or Halloween, but rather Nathan Barr's music influences and functions like very poisonous, very subtle, very oppressive, and constantly reminding us, the audience, that something is wrong long before the characters actually realize that there's something wrong, which to me is so incredibly powerful and so amazing, and it really favors these movies in a strong way. So now we are on to Siena's fun facts. They're fun and they're facts, and you learn a little something. Siena's fun facts. Fun fact number 1. This idea actually came when director Eli Roth discovered a website that allegedly offered wealthy individuals the opportunity to pay to kill a person. While the site itself was likely a hoax or an urban legend, the concept haunted Eli Roth and became the foundation for the Elite Hunting Club, which to me, very creepy, very scary, and just, again, adds that realistic layer to these movies. Creepy. Fun fact number 2. Takashi Miike makes a cameo. So legendary Japanese horror director Takashi Miike, known for films like Audition and Ichi the Killer, appears briefly in Hostel.
Excuse me. Excuse me. How is it in there?
Be careful.
Why is that?
You could spend all your money in there.
Scary. Ooh, creepy. I love that. I love the, again, the crossover of different subgenres in horror. Again, Audition is an incredibly crazy movie, creepy as hell, but so good in its own right. Fun fact number 3. Paxton's fate was actually kept a secret. So many fans were shocked when Paxton is killed at the beginning of Hostel Part 2. Roth intentionally included this scene to demonstrate that nobody was safe in the franchise. The surprise death immediately raises the stakes and removes the traditional final survivor safety net that are really common in horror sequels. So I loved that opening to Hostel Part 2. I think it is so good, and I think it is so incredibly powerful. Fun fact number 4. The bloodbath scene actually used practical effects, because of course it did. The infamous sequence in Hostel Part 2 where Lorna is suspended upside down while a client bathes in her blood was achieved primarily with practical effects rather than CGI. So the filmmakers used extensive prosthetics, tubing systems, and makeup effects to create the disturbing visual, making it one of the film's most talked about scenes. And oh my gosh, it's such a good scene, so powerful, and I love it. Fun fact number 5. the Elite Hunting Club has a hidden price list. So sharp-eyed viewers can spot details suggesting the Elite Hunting Club charges different rates depending on a victim's nationality. Americans are known as commanding some of the highest prices, and I love this because it's so subtle and it's such a world-building theme, and it really reinforces that human beings are treated like luxury commodities. And it's so twisted that I love it so much. Now, here's a little bonus fact. Eli Roth cast many actual Slavic and Czech actors in both films to help create an authentic Eastern European atmosphere. Ironically, the films were very controversial in Slovakia because some viewers felt they portrayed the country unfairly as dangerous and lawless, even though much of the film was done in the Czech Republic rather than Slovakia itself. I could see that. I could very much understand where Slovakia and all them are a little peeved about this and how they're portrayed in this movie, because they're not portrayed well. And of course, we have Scarometer, that meters as you get scared. Scarometer, that meters as you get scared. Yes. So, Hostel Part 1, I think, to me, is going to get a 7.5. And that's because I liked it. It's a little corny. It's a little cheesy in the dialogue. But I felt that I couldn't necessarily connect with it as much as I could for Hostel Part 2. And, of course, that's my own bias. You know, Hostel Part 2, it's primarily focused on women, on the women's perspective, that kind of thing. Hostel Part 2, for me, gets a 9.8. I love this movie. Is it cheesy, a little bit corny in the dialogue? A little bit. But honestly, I think that out of all Eli Roth's movies, this is the least cheesy and corny one. Now, I loved this movie because as a woman, I could very much connect with it on a different and deeper level. But also, I enjoyed the plot point of Beth flipping it around and making her story go from victim to a predator in this environment. And I think that the fact that this is primarily a woman doing this, women-oriented, all that kind of thing, I think that it just skyrockets it up for me because it's very unusual within the body horror genre to have this trope. And I love it. I love this movie. I love these movies. And like I've said before, I'm a huge fan of Eli Roth, and I think that what he did with these movies is simply amazing. So I think that these have truly cemented themselves within horror history. And of course, thank you all so much. Thank you all for joining me this evening for talking about these traumatizing movies. And I hope you loved watching these and discussing them with me as much as I love discussing them with you. Thank you all for just all of your love and support and watching this show every Friday night. I really appreciate everything. If you ever have any movie requests, comments, concerns, anything like that, please follow me on Instagram, or maybe I'll do it on the side. Follow me on Instagram. Sound off. Let me know your thoughts. And thank you all so much for joining me this evening. And remember, folks, don't split up and don't go into the basement. Bye.